Welcome to All Ages Driving School. In this particular portion of your distance learning education for the coronavirus crisis, we're going to be working on day 10 of your Teen Driver's Ed, which includes Chapter 15, Risk Reductions, and Chapter 16, Complex Risk Environments. So let's begin. All right, so processing information. First of all, I need all my students to go ahead and open up their textbooks, and we're going to be looking at Chapter 15 in your textbook. We're going to be starting off with risk reduction. All right, so the first part is process information, okay? And we're going to be doing the SIPDE process. Now, you've been taught this in class, but we're also going to get a refresh right here. What is the SIPDE process? It starts off with S, which stands for search. You want to constantly scan for potential hazards, and that means anything. Cars, pedestrians, potholes, anything that might actually be a hazard that you have to deal with. Number two, you want to identify. And the only way you can identify is by visually identifying it. That means you've got to be able to look at it directly to see exactly what it is in order for you to actually respond to it. Now, once you identify it, you want to move on to predict. And when we predict, you want to predict all potential outcomes of the hazard. Exactly what is that hazard going to do? How is it going to affect you? What is the worst case scenario? And what is the most probable scenario? And when you take all that information, you're going to go ahead and decide how you're going to deal with that potential hazard. Okay, so you must make a decision of how you will react to the hazard that would eliminate and or minimize potential risk. Okay, so if it's a pothole, you may want to straddle it. If it's too big to straddle, you may want to go around it. Or you may need to do other things in order to avoid contact with other vehicles around you. Right, so there's all different types of aspects of how we're going to decide to do things. But once we've decided, we go ahead and follow to the last step, which is execute. Execute, once you have decided, you must follow through with your decision by executing the maneuver. Either it be stopping, slowing down, changing lanes, straddling, anything that you may have to do in order to respond to that potential hazard. Visual search and what to identify. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to visually search. So what to search for? We're going to be looking at roadway features, sign signals and markings, motorized vehicles, non-motorized road users. So go ahead and look at Chapter 15, page 1, where it says visual search. It says the key to seeing what is actually there is to develop a pattern to your search on the roadway. This will enable you to search more quickly and more efficiently. It also, when performed often, will develop into a visual habit that will diminish the probability that you may miss something. A suggested pattern would be to search far ahead, 20 to 30 seconds, then closer, 12 to 15 seconds, at a glance in the rearview mirror, which if you look down at the bottom, you'll see the areas that they refer to. So the first one, 20 to 30 seconds, is area 1. 12 to 15 seconds is 12 to 15 seconds is also area 1. And then a glance in the rearview mirror, which is area 6, 4, and 5. Under the mirror to the space area 3, 8 seconds ahead, sweep to the left to return to area 1, and then right, and then basically area 2. Glance at the instrument panel for speed and any gauges, and then start the entire pattern over again. This is the proper way in which you want to search. So when I search personally driving, I go ahead and search left and right as I scan. I'll look into my side mirrors if need be. I'll look into my rear view mirror ever so often, and I'll make adjustments based on my speed and what my gauges tell me as I drive. So what to search for? To be effective when searching the highway and traffic scene, you must search for what is actually present within certain parameters. Okay, roadway features to search for. You want to search road and lane width, lane markings, roadway surfaces, shoulder conditions, slope of the road and shoulder, curb types and height, hills, curves and intersections, areas of limited visibility, structures adjacent to the roadway. You also want to search for signs, signals, and markings, such as warning signs, regulatory signs, directional signs, informational signs, traffic signals, lane use, turning or flashing signals, crosswalk markings, stop line or intersection markings. Motorized vehicles to search for. You want to look for cars, SUVs, minivans, trucks, vans, and traffic trailer rigs, buses, school buses, minibuses, motorhomes, motor vehicles and motorized scooters, construction equipment, farm vehicles, and tractors, and often slow-moving equipment. Non-motorized users include pedestrians, bicyclists, skaters, skateboarders, horse-drawn equipment, and animals. So what to identify? From all the information your eyes are searching, you must select the criteria data. At 25 to 30 seconds ahead, identify potential problems. At 12 to 15 seconds ahead, identify objects that require a change in speed or direction. At 12 and 15 seconds ahead, identify alternate paths to travel. At 4 to 8 seconds ahead, identify your stopping zones and following intervals. If everything is clear, you are fortunate. You occupy the inevitable position of being the only vehicle on the road and no other users are present in your environment. Normally, you would have searched other road users or line of sight closures occupying some of the space areas surrounding your vehicle. Alter your pattern to search the opposing space areas. For example, if a road user is in space area 3, check space area 2, as well as area 4, and your left blind spot. And are they open, closed, or changing areas? Right? So things are constantly changing when you're out there driving. So even though you might identify a hazard in one area, that hazard may have moved or slowed down or changed directions. All right, so characteristic of road users, you got all different types of vehicles and people out there. So you got large vehicles, okay? Large vehicles such as trucks, tractor trailers, and recreational vehicles require lots of power to accelerate to the flow of traffic, even more to accelerate to freeway speeds. This takes more time than an automobile. They seem to block the flow of traffic while they accelerate. They also take a longer distance to stop. You must be aware of other differences and make allowances for them. Okay. Trains. All right. Most railroad fatalities occur at 188,000 crossings in America that do not have signals or gates, only a crossbuck. The major cause of mishaps at railroad crossings is attention. Drivers who cross the same tracks frequently may forget to look both ways. Speeding, impatience, intoxication, and poor judgment add to the problem. Trains can travel at high speeds. Even at slow speeds, trains require at least 1 mile to stop, and in some cases 2 miles. In other words, they cannot stop in time. A train can cross at any time in any direction. If you take these concepts into consideration, you'll realize that the safety at railroad crossing is your responsibility. Look, anytime you're at a railroad crossing, we're lucky enough that we live here in Houston, that those train guards are there, but there are some areas that don't have those train guards. So you need to make sure that you're vigilant and checking both directions anytime you come across a train crossing or railroad crossing. Sport utility vehicles. SUVs are very popular vehicles in America. They are four-wheel drive family vehicles with a big motor to go fast, resulting in poor gas mileage. Sport utility vehicles have a higher center of gravity and susceptible to rollovers when making sharp turns at high speeds. They are also heavy, and this provides added protection for the occupants in a collision. So SUVs are top heavy. They have a tendency to roll over when you make a sharp turn. So anytime you're out there on the roadway, if you see a sport utility vehicle or you're in a sport utility vehicle, just kind of be wary of that. All right, recreational vehicles, RVs and trailers. All right, these vehicles have the same problems as described in larger vehicles. However, they are not being driven by professionals who adapt to their limitations on a daily basis. As such, you should be more apprehensive of their performance. Countermeasures to reduce risk. You should leave a much longer following distance interval to diminish the blockage of your field of vision. Also, sudden braking can cause them to jackknife in front of you. Leave extra space for them when they are turning. They require a wide area to turn, and then watch for any sway or possible hazards such as crosswinds or curves when you approach them. Realize that you will require a much longer distance to pass them safely. Let's see here, two-wheeled vehicles, which include bicycles and motorcycles. Cyclists are using the highway transportation system in ever-increasing numbers for pleasure, for work, and or to commute. Motorists must yield the right-of-way to cyclists at intersections when passing and when turning. You have to understand that bicyclists are considered a car out there on the road, so they must follow the law as well as you must obey them, respect them in the manner in which they are another vehicle. All right, avoid making right turns in front of a cyclist traveling on the shoulder. In areas where bicycle lanes have been marked on the pavement, check carefully and then enter this lane about 100 feet before the intersection when you wish to turn right. Yield to cyclists preparing to turn left. On roads where the speed exceeds 50 miles per hour, bicyclists must use the shoulder except where prohibited. Let's see here, motorcycles. Motorcycles are smaller, more vulnerable, and less visible than automobiles. However, they are just as powerful. They can accelerate very, very quickly. To operate a motorcycle, the rider must coordinate the hand throttle, the hand clutch, and foot gear shift to lever accelerate smoothly. To stop, the rider must operate a separate brake controls for the front hand lever and rear foot lever wheels. This requires considerable skill and coordination. If properly trained, the motorcyclist can be very adept. If not, the rider may not be able to maneuver very quickly or skillfully. Danger exists because the motorcyclist is exposed and is often no protection should a collision occur. Unlike four-wheel vehicles, a motorcyclist might have difficulty remaining upright while in motion. Like the bicycle, the rider may have to swerve to avoid road hazards. A motorcycle cannot cope with adverse weather conditions as well as a four-wheeled vehicle can. Then intermittent weather leave more space than you normally would for a motorcycle. When you are following a motorcycle, increase your following distance to at least preferably 4 seconds due to the possibility of a quick stop. When being followed by a motorcyclist, check the rearview mirror more often. Be aware of his or her presence and avoid making any sudden stops. Okay. All right, construction vehicles. Construction vehicles are usually located in a construction zone. You will see that construction zone orange sign when you're in those areas, and you want to look out for those construction vehicles. It states that construction vehicles are found and or near construction sites and work sites on the roadway. They are usually very large, lumbering vehicles and often very loud as well. Many construction vehicles move very slowly starting out because of the heavy loads they haul. Accelerating takes much longer. The driver, because of the loud noise, is less aware of traffic. To adapt to the construction vehicles, do not tailgate like large trucks. In respecting their no zones, the driver may not see you in the side mirrors. Leave an extra and longer interval. Keep a safe distance between you and your vehicle and any constructional vehicles, especially in the front and the sides. All right. Space management. You'll find space management on page 15.9. You see those 6 areas in which you have to manage space. Space management can be easy with practice. Anytime you're out there on the road and you're doing a drive time with one of your instructors, he's going to teach you how to utilize the following distance in terms of seconds. Okay, so the best bet is, of course, well, they say a minimum of 2 seconds, but as a novice driver, I would encourage 4 to 6 seconds of following distance. Okay, so how do you create space in front of you? That's real simple. Creating space in front of you just simply press the brake, allow the person in front of you to gain more distance on you, and that's the best way to create more space in front of you. To create space around you, you want to stay out of people's blind spots. Okay, you want to make sure that you're not equal to another vehicle side by side. Okay, so if you're in a middle lane and you got 2 vehicles next to you, there's 2 options you can do. You could either slightly speed up to move in front of them to not be in their blind spot, or you can go ahead and deaccelerate, let them pass you to create space around you so that you have you're not in anybody's blind spot, nor are they in your blind spot. Now, to create space behind you is a little bit more tricky. Okay, now, of course, tailgating, of course, is one of the leading causes of accidents out there. So if you find somebody tailgating you and you want to create that more space behind you, the last thing you want to do is brake check them. You do not want to brake check in any way. By brake checking, you actually create a situation where it may cause an accident. So what you want to do is that if you take your foot and you basically lightly touch your brake without applying pressure, it turns on the brake lights. By turning on the brake lights, it gives an indication to the person behind you that you may be braking. And as a result, their reaction most likely would be that they too will step on the brake, even though you're not deaccelerating. So when they step on the brake while you maintain your speed because they see those brake lights, you'll then create more space behind you. That's the best way to do it. Do not brake check them. Do not do any of those things, because by doing that, you actually you can create an accident. So you want to be careful with that. So risk assessment. What is risk? Risk is defined as the chance of injury, damage, or loss in a driving situation. Risk in the driving task. Only way to totally avoid risk is to never get into a car. There is risk in nearly everything we do. The best way to reduce it is with knowledge and with practice. So anytime you actually want to reduce your risk of getting into an auto accident, the best way to do that is learn as much as you can. Of course, follow all the guidelines and rules when it comes to defensive driving and the rules and laws of the road. And you also want to practice. Okay, the more time you get behind the wheel, the more practice you have, the better you become at it, and therefore you reduce your risk of getting into an accident, because you start building those patterns that allow you to predict and manage risk around you. So that is always the best policy. My dad always told me growing up, said, son, you do best what you do most. Whatever you sink your time into, that's what you're going to be good at. So that's what I want you to do. Once you get that learner's license, get out there, practice as often as possible while being safe and utilizing the knowledge that you've gained through our course so that you become a better driver. So that's exactly what we expect from you. All right, so what are the 7 leading causes of crashes out there? Okay, so number 1, of course, is speeding, right? The faster you go, the more dangerous it is. The longer it takes for you to stop, the less space you have in order to react to an actual hazard. So speeding, of course, is one of the leading causes of crashes. Now on the freeway, speeding is one of the leading causes of death, right? So the faster you go, the more likely you'll be involved in an accident that may cause death. So you definitely want to be careful and follow the speed limit restrictions out there on the road, and they're there for a reason, okay? And you don't have to always go the speed limit. You can go less than the speed limit, especially in adverse conditions, right? And in Houston, almost every time you get on the road, there's going to be some type of adverse condition, either it be heavy traffic or rain or fog or something that may actually reduce your vision and your traction out there on the road. So speed limits is just basically the limit in which you can go under ideal conditions, but under adverse conditions, you want to reduce that. So number 2 is failure to yield. Okay, anytime you have a yielding situation, which you'll be learning in this course, the 13 rules of right-of-way, if you fail to yield, you may ultimately cause an accident. Number 3, driving while intoxicated. Anytime you drink anything or even do drugs, any of that will actually affect your ability to drive. So anytime you negatively affect your ability to drive, you ultimately increase your risk of getting into an accident. Number 4, disregarding traffic signs or signals. If you don't pay attention and you miss that stop sign, you zoom through that intersection, you may end up getting into a car accident. So you got to be very careful. Number 5, following too closely. Okay, anytime you tailgate somebody because they're going too slow, you have to understand that you need space in order to react to a sudden hazard or them braking themselves. So that reaction time, that 1.5 seconds that you need, you're gonna eliminate that if you tailgate. Okay, so the moment they hit their brakes, you're not going to have enough time to react. You're not going to have enough time to actually slow down to the point where you can stop safely, and you're going to cause an accident. So don't ever tailgate anybody, and then also don't cut people off, which ultimately leads to that following too closely. All right, improper turns. You always want to make sure you have your blinker on 100 feet prior to a turn. You want to make sure you stay in your lane when turning. You do not want to turn. You do not want to change lanes within intersections. You want to make sure that you checked your blind spots, look for bicyclists, pedestrians, and all the other scenarios before you make that turn. So improper turns is one of the leading causes of accidents out there. And of course, unsafe passing. Anytime you're on a two-way road and you need to pass another vehicle in front of you, anytime you're near a hill, an intersection, a curve, anything that'll affect vision, it's going to be an unsafe situation. So look at the road that you're on. Is it a dashed yellow line? If it's a dashed yellow line, then that means you have the ability to pass the person in front of you, but at the same time you still got to yield to traffic that is coming towards you. Okay, now if it's a dashed white line, then you always want to pass on the left. You do not want to pass on the right. Let's see here. And of course, honorable mention, of course, is distracted driving. Texting, talking, looking away from the road. Anything that would actually distract you from inside the car, outside the car, to keep you from looking at the road ahead or concentrating at the task at hand, which is driving, it'll definitely increases your chances of getting into an auto accident. So novice drivers. Who is a novice driver? Ultimately, you are a novice driver. If you're a teen, you are a novice driver. You do not have enough experience in order to be considered an experienced driver. All right, so anyone who lacks experience driving a car and is considered a learner or just beginning. Teens are considered to be novice drivers. Novice drivers must utilize risk reduction techniques in order to avoid minimizing risk while driving. So the techniques that you learn in this class, especially defensive driving techniques, is going to keep you safe out there, right? So knowing the rules, knowing the laws, and knowing what is safe is priority in order to keep you out of that car crash, because the leading cause of death for teenagers ultimately is car accidents, and we want to avoid that. So risk reduction techniques, okay? If you look at page 15.13, you'll see a laundry list of risk reduction techniques, but these are the major ones, okay? So knowing and applying Texas laws, utilizing driver preparation procedures, wearing seatbelt, helmets, and following safety guidelines, applying driver readiness techniques. Okay, driver readiness means that you're not under the influence of alcohol or drugs, you're not sleepy and tired, you're not sick and ill, you are basically in prime condition in order for you to get behind that wheel and drive. You using a balance and control technique. So anytime you're in a skid or in a situation where you're losing control of your vehicle, you're going to use proper balance and control techniques in order to stay safe. Okay, applying the SIPD while driving, this is paramount, is very important. You constantly search, you constantly looking to identify potential hazards. You're going to predict those hazards, you're going to decide what you're going to do, and you're going to execute it in a safe and efficient manner. Number 7, using space awareness and management techniques while driving. We talked a little bit about space management, right? How to create space in front of you, behind you. You don't want to be anybody's blind spot, so that's very important. Number 8, reduce and eliminate distractions while driving. You want to put those cell phones away. You want to put it on silent. You do not want to be talking to passengers. You do not want to be getting into arguments or anything else while driving your vehicle. You want to make sure that you're focused at the task at hand. Do not look at anything that distracts you from driving and looking in front of you, checking your blind spot, or looking in the rearview mirror. So it's very important that you're aware of all of your surroundings while driving. So you definitely want to reduce and eliminate distractions. All right, so risk environments. What kind of risk environments are we going to see out there? Low risk environments is limited to speeds under 40 miles per hour. Traffic flow is minimal and weather is ideal, right? So you maybe find yourself sometimes out there where the sun is shining, the roads are dry, there's little to no traffic, you're driving less than 40 miles per hour. That would be considered low risk, all right? But the risk is still there. Moderate risk environments, same as above, but limited to 60 miles per hour. And of course, high risk is anything above 60 miles per hour, anything that could be considered adverse weather conditions. If you're in heavy fog, rain, snow, anything that will affect vision and traction, it automatically goes into a high risk environment. And then of course, if traffic is heavy and congested. All right, intersections. There's all different types of intersections. There's traditional and non-traditional. So if you look at chapter 16, now we're looking at 16, which is risk environments. And there's different characteristics of risk environments that we just talked about, low, moderate, and high risk. All right, but intersections, okay? Traditional intersections include uncontrolled intersections, intersection roads with lesser or greater number of lanes, intersection roads with different pavement surfaces, T-intersections, and intersecting public road with private road, like pulling out of a parking lot, like at all ages driving school. Now, non-traditional intersections include railroad grade crossings, U-turns, 2-point turns, 3-point turns, driveway intersections with the street, path of travel restrictions caused by parked vehicles and other road users like school buses, special areas like school zones, parks, recreational centers, and of course, increase in the type of flow of traffic that changes with the risk environment. Okay. Now we're going to talk about right-of-ways. So on the website, allagesdrivingschool.com, you will find a download on the resources called Right-of-Way Rules. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now. All right, so this is the All Ages Driving School website, which you should already be familiar with. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to click on More, where we see resources. We're going to click on resources. Okay, if you look at resources, you'll see all the resources that we have on our page, including the 30-hour parent log. But if you go all the way down here, what I want you to focus on right now is right-of-way rules. So go ahead and click on right-of-way rules. We're going to open that up. All right, so you could download this. You can use it for your own personal use. Put it in your notebook. Keep it handy. But these are the rules of right-of-way when you're out there driving on the road. So number 1, at controlled intersection, yield to signs and signals. So obviously stop sign, yield sign, red light, things of that nature. Number 2, road with fewer lanes, yield to roads with more lanes. So if I'm on a road and it's let's say it's a side street, 2-lane road, 2-way, and I'm driving up towards a larger street like Shaver, which is 4-lane road, okay, anytime a 2-lane intersects with a 4-lane road, you must yield to the 4-lane road. Okay, so the 4-lane road cars are not going to stop for you. You have to stop for them and then merge in safely. All right, 3, unpaved roads yield to paved roads. So if you're coming off a dirt road onto a paved road, obviously you want to yield to any cars coming your way. Number 4, at uncontrolled intersections, yield to cars on your right. Okay, now anytime you're at an uncontrolled intersection, you want to treat it like a four-way stop sign. You want to stop, and of course you want to look both ways. But one of the rules I kind of tell my students to do, that you have to understand that even though you may have the right of way and there's a car approaching, you want to make sure that that car stops first prior to you going. Once they stop, you can see that they're going to be yielding, then you go ahead and apply your right of way and go. All right, number 5. When turning left, yield to oncoming traffic. So if you're at an intersection where you see a solid green light but you're in the turn lane and it's not an arrow, any oncoming traffic that's coming towards you, you want to make sure you yield to them before turning left. Same thing if you're in a center lane for turning only, any oncoming traffic that's coming and you're turning into a business, you want to make sure that you yield the right of way for them. Okay, let's see here, number 6. Private roads, alleys, driveways yield to cars on public roads. So when you pull out of your driveway in the morning, you got to yield to cars already on the road. If you pull out of Ollie's driving school parking lot onto the main road, you got to yield to cars already on public roads. So anything from private to public must yield. Number 7, at intersections, yield to through traffic. Okay, at T intersections, At T intersections, yield to through traffic. So if you're at a T intersection and you could only turn right or left, you're going to have to hold up. Just, you got to make sure that no cars are coming from your right or coming from your left before you make that turn. So you want to yield to cars already on that road at a T intersection. So special merging situations, number 8, on a frontage road, yield to cars entering and exiting the control access highway. So if any cars are exiting the freeway and you're on the feeder road, you need to make sure that you yield to them when they're trying to merge onto that feeder road. As well as when you get onto an access road, like if you get onto the accelerating lane to get onto the freeway, then you must yield to cars already on the freeway. Okay. Number 9, on a multi-lane roadway, when 2 cars are entering the same lane, the car on the right must yield to the car on the left. All right, so an example of this would be if you're on the freeway and it's a 3-lane road and you're in the right-hand lane, but you want to get into the middle lane. Okay, so if you want to get into the middle lane and you look in your mirrors and you look your blind spot, everything looks clear, but you start to merge into that middle lane, but the car on the far left lane also wanted to merge, and you both try to merge at the same time. Now, if you try to merge at the same time, the car on the right must yield to the car on the left. So the faster traffic, left lane traffic, would have the right of way over the right-hand lane, which is slower traffic when merging into that center lane. All right, so that would be a special circumstance. Number 10, yield to trains and railroad crossings. That's obvious. Trains can't stop in time. Number 11, yield to emergency vehicles by pulling to the right and stopping. Right, so that's one way you could yield to them. Number 12, yield to school buses when flashing red lights. So when you see those yellow lights on a school bus start to flash, that means they're getting ready to stop. And then, of course, when you see those red lights, you must stop. Okay, now cars directly behind the school bus must stop behind the school bus. If there is a 4-lane road or even a 2-lane road with opposing traffic, if there is no median, all cars on that road must stop. Now, if there is a median, separating the bus from opposing side of traffic, then the opposing side does not have to yield. But at the same time, if you are on the side of the bus, you must yield with the bus. Okay. And then, of course, number 13, yield to pedestrians. Pedestrians have the right of way under all circumstances. It doesn't matter what the situation is. They could be jaywalking, they could be breaking the law, it could be a protest that just fills the entire freeway, blocking everybody from going. You must yield to pedestrians, even if they're breaking the law. So the first thing you want to do when you get in that car is preserve life. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to damage property. So if you see a pedestrian out there on the roadway, you got to give them room. You got to slow down, stop, change directions, whatever you got to do to avoid contact with that pedestrian. That's what you need to do in order to stay safe for them. Okay, so it's very important. These are the 13 rules of right of way. So go ahead and download these 13 rules. You can go ahead and print them out, put them in your notebook, study them. You will be seeing them on your final exam. So you got to know these. And of course, anytime you're out there on the roadway, you got to know your rules of right of way if you are going to actually be safe out there on that road. All right, so at this slide right here, you'll see our reading requirements. So what are your requirements for today? You are to read both chapter 15 and 16 of the textbook provided to you by the instructor. On our resource page, you'll find the textbook handbook and you are to complete an email to me, exercise A on page 57 of the workbook, as well as exercise A on page 61 of the workbook. Please email me the assignment to your. Please email the assignment to your instructor. If you're in my class for the Pasadena ISD location, or excuse me, the Pasadena location, you are to email me at mrjamesdriversed@gmail.com. And of course, please visit our YouTube channel. I have a whole laundry list of risk reduction and complex risk environments videos that you can watch. But in order for you to better understand of where to get the assignment, let's go ahead and look at our All Ages Driving School website. So if you come over here to the resource page, you click on resources, you'll see our resource page right here. If you scroll all the way down, you'll notice our Driver's Ed textbook workbook. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on that. You can download it, or you can just open it up in your browser, and we're going to go ahead and look at risk reductions on page 57 and risk environments on page 61. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down all the way to page 57. Okay, so that way you're able to do the assignment. All right, we're going to keep going down. It's chapter 8, chapter 11, chapter 12, 13, 14. All right, so this is chapter 15. All right, so chapter 15, you're going to do exercise A, which is this right here. Okay, you're going to do exercise A. You are going to answer each question. All right, so when you email me, you are going to give me the answer choice that you've chosen. Okay, you could put A, B, C, D for each question, and you're going to go 1 through all the way through 30. Okay, so that's your assignment for chapter 15, exercise A. Now when you go down to chapter 16, okay, you're going to be doing risk environments, which is on page 61. It's this assignment right here, risk environments, exercise A. You're going to do questions 1 through 30, excuse me, 1 through 45. You're going to answer each of those questions, and you're going to email me along with chapter 15's exercise A in order for you to get credit for day 10 of the course. Ultimately, this is due by March 26th, but if you can go ahead and email me them today, I'll go ahead and give you credit for the course today. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to looking at your answers and grading them. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, mrjamesdriversed@gmail.com. You could also contact our office if you have any other questions. They'll get in contact with me, or email me your number, and I'll contact your parent, any questions that they may have, and help them through the process. So good luck. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and stay safe out there, stay well, and make sure you wash your hands for that coronavirus. I'll take care.